Hello, Bill.
Good afternoon, Matt.
Welcome to the DMZ, everybody. I enjoyed listening to Robert Wright talk about us, you and me.
New York Times bestselling author Robert Wright.
Yeah, isn't that awesome?
I think it's up to 3 weeks now. Why Buddhism is True. 3 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. I believe it went up a couple notches last week.
And I think, wasn't he on Fresh Air with Terry Gross?
Oh, I hadn't heard. You're more of an NPR listener than I am, so you know these things more than I do.
That's sort of my dream, is to get on that show someday. And I think he was. So anyway, he's doing terrific, and I thought it was a fun show, and I like how he tried to emulate my... By the way, I just took a picture from a swanky hotel, and if you go to at Twitter, at DMZ Show, I just tweeted a picture from a swanky hotel, which is, I think Bob was making fun of me. So anyway, I thought I would have some fun back. I carbon copied it on that tweet.
But it's nice to have you back. You had your annual summer sojourn to Arizona.
Yes, I did. It's interesting. You would think August, you're guaranteed that it would be hot in the Washington, D.C. area. But if you had stayed in Washington, D.C., this August, it would have been a little bit cool and a lot rainy. But obviously nothing like Texas, of course, or what Florida's going to get. But if you go to Arizona, you are guaranteed that it's going to be hot and sunny, and it's going to be summer every single day you're there in August.
But the air conditioning is fresher there, right? It's more robust. It's crisper.
It's great. It's you can sit outside in the shade. There's no humidity. They have these misters everywhere that shoot mist. If you're just staying in the swanky hotel, that is. And there are great restaurants. They really, they have all these great restaurants because they need the infrastructure for all of the snowbirds who come down from, the Midwest in the winter. But of course, in August, they're all gone. So you can get into the best restaurants. Only the best. You get up early, you go for a hike. It's I love Arizona.
And the kids like it?
The kids love it. 9 straight years summering in Arizona.
I mean, at this point, to me, it's what is going to occupy my children. I do not care about my own amenities.
Yeah.
We had 2 major vacations this year. One was, camping trip in Rhode Island. The other was we went to Cape Cod and we stayed at a motel, and these are places where I get no personal enjoyment out of it whatsoever, except for the fact
you're doing it wrong.
What's that?
You ever heard of the kids camp?
I'm not familiar with kids camp.
Oh my heavens! So these hotels have what's called a kids camp.
Oh, it's like a Club Med sort of thing.
No, this is like the Boca Resort in Boca Raton, or a lot of Four Seasons. Usually for free, sometimes for a nominal cost, they will basically take your kids from 9 to 5, sometimes they're even evening hours, and the kids get to hang out with other kids. They take them to the swimming pool. They sometimes they like have a circus. They'll do face painting. They watch a movie at lunch, and they'll play sports with other kids. And the kids love it. It's better than hanging out with us.
Well, that's what the campground is like. When I went to the camp, this is the Burlingame State Park campground. It's a very big campground, so there's lots of kids around. There are movie nights and arcade and stuff like that. But you are sleeping in a tent, and it is not tranquil because there's so many other people around. But it occupies their day, and that's all I care about. When we're at the motel, we're going to Cape Cod beaches during the day, but they actually, in some cases, enjoy the pool at the motel more than the beaches, and I don't care. They like them both. I don't care for swimming. The sun was baking my brain, and it's not how I like to live.
Just sit in a lawn chair reading a history.
Well, that's what I was trying to do, but
I
got through 2 Andrew Jackson books in August, and I'm on to Martin Van Buren right now, which is more exciting than I thought he was going to be. But I'd rather do it I'd rather not do it on a beach. I just don't like the sun that much. But again, my children were occupied, and that's all that matters to me.
Well, we had some interesting stuff. I won't go into. We're on a time crunch. I got to run sadly in a little bit, but there was a celebrity at our hotel Not me. Actually, almost every year I see a celebrity. One year it was John Fogerty. This year it was a guy. I'm trying to think of a celebrity. I'm going to use the term somewhat loosely because I can't think of his name. But he's a famous musician who has a song called "Dirt on Your Boots" or "Dirt on My Boots." John Party, I think is his name.
It's a new country song?
Well, it's sort of like bro country. It's a country song that they play on the same stations that play like Taylor Swift. So my kids knew the song. And when I saw him and I didn't mention it, and then we were at dinner one night and he was sitting over there and I told my kids, I'm like, hey, I just want you to know that there's like, you know that, and my kids knew the song. So they wanted to go talk to him, but they were like too shy. So finally my older boy goes over and starts singing, I got some dirt on my boots, the song. And the guy's like wife or girlfriend calls him over and they just give him like a fist bump and it was quite nice. My little guy was like in the bathroom or something when that happened. So he was upset. Later on, he got upset that he didn't get to meet John Party. And as we were leaving, we had to leave and he wanted to go back. And I said, look, you know, these celebrities, they're on vacation. They're with their families. They don't want to be bothered. And he said, well, I'm on my vacation. And I want to hang out. When I'm on vacation, I want to hang out with people cooler than my parents. So anyway, that was one of the fun little things that happened. But yeah, the kids, people who don't have kids, I want to talk to you offline. I'm having the sibling rivalry problem now, where there's a lot of fighting about this one gets to do that, but the other one doesn't.
I feel you.
That's where I'm at. So maybe you have some tips for me offline.
I got no tips. It's just muddle through.
Yeah. Got a book? Got a book for me to read on this?
We will talk offline.
By the way, real quick, I got into minimalism. I'm into minimalism now. And I did read a book called Clutter Free with Kids on Vacation. And, you know, if you've seen the minimalism documentary on Netflix, if you're a parent, you think, oh, yeah, it seems great, but you got kids, you can't be a minimalist. And this book is specifically for those of us who have children. So
you could probably write that book in one chapter. Take all your kids' crap and dump it out. Boom, clutter free.
That's step one. But yeah.
All right, but now you're back on the East Coast. You're back to amongst your people, your elitist people. You are. Did you tune out at Trump while you were gone? Were you offline?
Yes, I went. I went offline. I switched Twitter. I have a couple Twitter handles, and I have one that just follows like positive, like quotes from great authors and stuff. So because I couldn't get past the habit of checking Twitter, so I said, okay, I'll check Twitter, but it's going to just be positive.
Happy
stuff.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Serenity now, Twitter.
Now, granted, when I was away, the big news was Houston. So there wasn't as much political stuff happening, but I really found that if I just checked my Twitter, my real Twitter feed one time a day, I could stay abreast of the stuff I actually needed to know. So I was able to basically tune out the news, but not go completely like, dark.
But now you're back, and Trump has dived headlong into the immigration controversy with DACA being rescinded, although even that's a little bit murky now that Trump has indicated that if Congress can't pass a substitute, he'll revisit. You have long been a pro-immigration reform conservative. You have made the conservative case for immigration, although you did not care for Obama's executive orders. You wanted to go through the legislative process. So, do you feel like this is Matt Lewis's dream? The unconstitutional executive orders have been wiped off the books. Now Congress can do its due diligence and pass a proper DREAM Act, and there will be considerable pressure to do so because Dreamers are such sympathetic figures. The Republicans will have no choice but to address this problem head on.
No, I think that President Trump has really mishandled this. He could have if he was, he could have done this to great fanfare. If he wanted to pass a Dreamer bill, he could have gotten credit for it. He could have come out at some point and said, I don't believe in executive orders, but I do believe we need to protect these kids. That is why I'm giving Congress 6 months to do this. I'm ready to sign a bill that would protect. So then he might have gotten some good press, at least. He has instead put Republicans in this really thankless position where if they don't pass it, then they look incompetent and inept and heartless. And if they do pass it, then I think the base is going to be understandably pretty pissed off because at this point, he hasn't repealed Obamacare, he hasn't built the wall, he hasn't done tax reform. And so it's possible that the major accomplishments of this Republican Congress will be passing DACA, and passing some Dreamer bill and raising the debt ceiling. Like that could be it. So I think a standalone bill, Trump could have come out 6 months ago and said, so here's what we're going to do. I am a firm believer in immigrants, but I also think we need assimilation. The good news is these Dreamers are an assimilation success story. I want them to stay in America. That is why we're going to pass a bill to keep them here. But we're also going to do some enforcement. Now, maybe it's wall funding, maybe it's E-Verify, maybe it's ending chain migration. I don't know what that is. But right now, basically, it seems like Trump has given away his leverage and handed Republicans in Congress a huge problem. He's provided no vision. It's unclear if he wants them to pass it or reject it. We don't even know. All we know is that he's gotten it off his plate. So I don't know. It's just muddled and muddy and a lack of vision and leadership right now.
Well, it seems there was a piece that came out. It might have been while you were away in Politico, where because Trump had been criticizing McConnell and Ryan a fair amount, and his advisors were anonymously telling Politico, we want to separate Trump from Congress. We don't want Trump's brand to be sullied by the morass of the swamp, and so it's good for Trump to pick these fights with the Republican leadership, so he'll be in good shape in 2020. Now, where that logic falls apart is it does the Republican Party no good in 2018. You're handing Democrats a narrative of a Republican Congress that can't get anything done. If you care about legislative priorities, you're not assisting yourself because you're beating up on the people that you need to work with. And if you did lose the Congress in 2018, Democrats will supercharge all these investigations against you. So it wouldn't seem logical under normal political criteria, but if you do not care about legislative wins, if you do not care about investigations because you're already fighting them anyway, if all you care about is fighting and drama, then it makes some sort of warped sense. And so for Trump to throw a burning hot potato in the Republican lap, in the Republican Congress's lap, an issue that unites the Democratic Party and divides the Republican Party. I mean, literally, like if you were to pick a list of 2,000 issues to choose from, a normal president would not say, what divides us and unites them? I'll do that one. That's exactly what Trump did here. But I would say that this is like a pattern where Democrats are on the offensive. I mean, Republicans are in control of everything, but Democrats have this swagger because Republicans are constantly playing defense, constantly with wedge issues being worked against them and being forced to like defend the indefensible. You've got these Democrats like Heidi Heitkamp and Joe Manchin and Claire McCaskill. And as far as I know, they haven't had to take a difficult vote on anything that put them in a bind. Well, I mean, you could argue that an Obamacare repeal vote, in theory, would be a tough vote. They're in Trump states.
Would be.
What's that?
Might be. Well, it might be if they had to take one. I mean,
Well, they voted against repealing.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is that Obamacare repeal was popular before they started the process and became unpopular by the end of it. So it wasn't so much of a tough vote. And immigration is obviously very divisive, but most surveys show that dreamers are enormously popular, even amongst a good chunk of Republicans. So that's a relatively easy vote for Democrats, even in red states, to plant their feet on. So Republicans still haven't found the issue that's going to drive a wedge through Democrats. I mean, maybe taxes. I mean, clearly offering a tax cut is the kind of thing that can be very tempting to a Democrat in a regulating state.
For me here is that if you're Ann Coulter or Steve King, you don't like this. So like, this isn't an example of heartless Trump siding with his base against 80% of the Americans. This is an example of really a no-win situation. I mean, the most likely scenario is probably that Republicans pass a standalone DREAM Act bill that protects these kids and alienates the Republican base.
You think that's the likeliest outcome?
I mean, maybe the likeliest outcome is nothing. I don't know, but I mean, like, I think the least likely outcome is probably fixing it and pairing it with some sort of enforcement mechanism.
Well, it depends on what that enforcement mechanism is. I mean, there's no palatable path. I mean, Trump has forced a situation where whatever the Republican Congress does, including nothing, there are negative consequences.
And why would he, like, if he really wants to build a wall, if he really wants to end chain migration or whatever, why would he give this away? Like this, he has no, it seems like he gave away any leverage he might have had on it. I just don't understand.
Well, I'm by no means assuming there is internal political strategic logic in what he's doing beyond move all controversial issues off of my plate onto theirs. I mean, I think that probably was the long and short of it. But there, to the extent that if you actually cared about doing something, so you said, why didn't Trump just start off on a more positive footing and encourage a DACA bill to replace the executive order in a 6-month?
If you're going to do it, get credit for it, right? Just like,
but the one downside to that approach you had, you said in a 6-month time frame. Well, the 6-month time frame is totally arbitrary unless you are threatening to yank out the current.
Well, he is being sued. I mean, it is an arbitrary deadline, but he is being sued by, like, what, 10 state attorneys general.
I mean, and obviously it was going to make Jeff Sessions cry to have to go to court and defend the existing executive order, so we couldn't make Jeff Sessions cry. Although it's okay to make Jeff Sessions cry if he's not firing Robert Mueller. So,
well, this is the trade-off that Jeff Sessions gets to kick in exchange for being humiliated. He gets to kick out, dreamers out of the country.
But they could have done the nominal defense of the executive order. It doesn't mean Jeff Sessions walking into court. It could be a career attorney, and just see where the chips fall. Maybe you didn't do the best defense. Maybe you throw the defense. Maybe do a crappy job in court. But I mean, they not have to yank this out just because they're getting sued.
Well, and Trump didn't even have to say. He could have left that vague. He could have said, "We're being sued," and honestly, I think that this is something that should be settled legislatively. We're a nation of laws, and
that is what he's saying.
Yeah, and then I think he should. Then he could say, I don't want to say what he should say, but he could say, "I believe that we should protect these dreamers. And therefore, I am ready to sign a bill that does just that. And I'm calling on Congress to, urgently pass a bill. And I will sign it."
Yeah, the thing he's not doing is laying out, here's what I would like to sign. Here are my principles. Here are things I'm willing to negotiate on.
And
there's none of that.
As Rubio basically suggested on Twitter, they could pass a bill and go through all the hoopla. And by the way, they've got a lot of stuff to do. A lot of stuff that they need to do. They could go through all that, and then Trump could veto it. Just I like it. If it's Like, we don't even know if he would sign a standalone bill.
Well, I think a standalone bill would probably be pretty hard to get through. There's got to be some saving of face, some kind of concession they will ask of Democrats.
Say that they won't pass, that they won't vote for anything. Today, Chuck Schumer said it has to be a clean bill.
Well, that's a negotiating position. I mean, they will. I do not think they would ever accept wall funding, and that I'm sure is a non-negotiable for Democrats. I'm sure there are other border security measures that they would say are beyond the pale. But this, I mean, there were border security measures in the 2013 Senate immigration bill. There are things they have proven they're willing to pair.
I don't understand why the wall is such a deal breaker. Like, you could argue it's not going to be that effective. You could argue just symbolically and aesthetically, it's unseemly. But why not say, okay, you want a wall? It's not my cup of tea. We'll build a wall, secure the border, and we're going to protect these dreams.
I think it's taken on an enormous symbolic, emotional relevance at this point. I mean, a lot of the arguments against the wall are this is a waste of money. This is a waste of time. It's not going to be effective. People will go under it. People will go around it. People will find a way. Which you could say, well, if you think it's ineffective, then let the baby have his bottle.
It makes all these people happy. They really want it. Okay.
But I do think aesthetically, the signal that it sends is that you're not welcome here. That drives Democrats mad. That drives Latinos mad. So that's not going to be something they're going to be willing to negotiate. Now, in the 2013 bill, they said, "Hey,
but you are not welcome to sneak across the border illegally. You are welcome to come here legally." I don't think it's wrong or xenophobic to say, if it sends a message that you're not, that we don't want you to sneak into the country, that's a good message. Maybe that's a message we should say.
I mean, obviously that's the view amongst many conservatives. It's not the view amongst many Democrats and many progressives and many Latinos.
So you're saying, because I'm very pro-immigration, but so you're saying that a lot of liberals encourage illegal immigration?
No.
They want to send a message that people should come illegally?
No. I'm saying the message that Democrats want to send is that we are a welcoming nation, and a wall does not send that message. I mean, there's a way to argue, we welcome you so long as you go down this particular path and don't want you to do it illegally. I mean, I get that. But, the symbolism of it is that this is for us, that's for you, stay out.
But some conservatives think the symbolism of granting citizenship to people who came here illegally, whether it's through no fault of their own or whatever, that is bad symbolism, and that sends a message. So let's do a compromise.
Well, if I can get a little deeper, I mean, look, I don't think it's quite right to say all Democrats are open borders, but certainly most Democrats don't believe in overly severe immigration restrictions. They don't think it should be that hard to come here. So in that sense, they want to be welcoming and not pose a lot of barriers. They want a situation where you wouldn't need a wall because it's easy to come. And so then having the wall is a sign of not just that we don't want you to come here illegally. It's a way of saying we are creating lots of obstacles for you to come here, which Democrats don't want.
I'm actually very sympathetic to that personally. But I also realize that there are a lot of my brothers and sisters, a lot of Americans who are uneasy about things right now. And some of them are probably, have some, ideas that I don't agree with, but some of them just think that there's America's changing and that, we are reaching the level of sort of the percentage, the highest percentage we've had of foreign-born people in America right now. I think it's around 15% or something like that. And they worry that we're not assimilating immigrants the way that we used to. So maybe I don't have that concern, but if they're worried about it and we want to have a country and compromise and get along, I don't know. It seems like there's not a lot of sort of grace extended toward people who have that concern. And I think that I'm willing to say, like, this doesn't keep me up at night, but if it's like a stumbling block for you, but if we can find a way to do it compassionately and keep you happy, why not?
I mean, this is why it's such a difficult issue, and why it engenders so much emotion. You know, Teddy Roosevelt used to complain about hyphenated Americans back in the 1916 campaign, and his fellow Republicans were telling, "Hey, Teddy, will you quit with the hyphenated Americans? We need some of these people's votes. Stop making such a big deal about this." So we had the 1924 Immigration Act, which had these stiff quotas. We had the Chinese Exclusion Act in the late 19th century, and so it's not like Americans haven't had these concerns about what are these immigrants going to do to the fabric of the country. And most Democrats think those concerns are bogus and are bigoted, and the immigrant spirit has what's infused America's dynamism since the beginning, and we should celebrate that. They don't want to meet halfway on that point.
Well, I definitely think that historically, you look at some of the things being said today, derogatory things being said today about, you know, Hispanic immigrants. It's pretty much what was said about the Irish and the Italians, and it's very easy to draw that line. On the other hand, like I said, we are reaching this point of where historically we're having more foreign-born people in America, the sort of the peak percentage. It's fair to ask, at what point does it become hard? Like, what's the number? What's the percentage? At what point does it become difficult to assimilate? We also have terrorism today. That's something that has been around for a long time, but now you could pretty much have somebody with a dirty bomb do much more serious damage than was possible. Now, of course, that could be foreign-born domestic terrorism. That could be a white supremacist who does something, So, but I think that sensitivities are heightened in that regard. And then lastly, I think that there is a question about, look, if you leave, heck, it could be Africa. It doesn't have to be Europe. I mean, if you leave someplace and get on a boat or a plane and come to America, you're leaving, in a sense, the old country behind. But if you sort of cross the Rio Grande and you've got relatives over there, maybe it's, it could be, and I don't live on the border, but I think there's a concern that you have people who are coming to America, but they're not sort of becoming part of the melting pot, because they're essentially segregating in their own communities, speaking their own language. And maybe America's not doing as good of a job as it used to of assimilating immigrants. Like, again, we could argue about that, but my point is that it's not necessarily analogous to so the concerns and the hand-wringing about immigrants in the past are not necessarily analogous to today.
I know we have to jump in about 10. I don't want to get another topic, but just to tie up this one point. So I don't think they could do a deal where it's DACA plus wall, but we had a deal in 2013 where it was path of citizenship plus massive increase in funding for border security and hiring more border patrol agents. There is stuff like that where I think Democrats would be willing to cut a deal. I think we much hard. You're never going to get the Trump base to come around on it because they don't want DACA in the first place, and unless if they don't have the wall, I mean the wall is their prized possession. They don't want to have an easy flow of immigrants coming in. Anything that's going to suggest that flow is going to even maintain at the status quo level is not going to be accepted by them. But if the decision by Ryan and McConnell is we have to pass a DACA, we're going to get hammered if it's just day after day of sympathetic dreamers being raided by ICE, ripped out of their communities and thrown into a country where they've never even been in since they were 2 years old. That's not tenable. Hey, Democrats, what can we do here? I mean, it gives Democrats a lot of leverage. But I think there are some things Democrats could offer, and maybe it's not even about immigration. Maybe it's on some other subject.
I don't understand why Democrats would offer anything, because I think Republicans are on the defensive. I think that Democrats have them by the short hairs here, so to speak. But look, if you voted for Donald Trump because you care about immigration and you're a restrictionist, and you've got the Senate and the House and all these governorships, and you elected Donald Trump, and the one thing he gets this year is DACA, that they passed that, what do you do? It's got to be unbelievable.
Well, again, Trump does not seem to care about 2018. Nothing in his actions suggests he's trying to help Republicans shore up their position for 2018. But let's put Republican divisions aside.
We'll put a pin in that one.
Because we have a lot of Democrat division going on as well. We are less than a week away from the release of the Hillary Clinton campaign memoir, What Happened. The excerpts have already been leaking out. And we've seen her take shots at Bernie Sanders, shots at Joe Biden, although the Bernie ones are getting the most play. And we seem to be on the cusp of relitigating that debate all over again at a time when a lot of Bernie-crats are looking to push legislative demands of the Democratic Party. They've more and more set up a litmus test on single payer. Just recently, Kamala Harris, who a lot of the Bernie-crats were geared to oppose, has now said, I'm going to sponsor Bernie's Medicare for All bill. Chuck Schumer tried to appease them with his better deal package, had a lot of populist elements, though it stopped short in some areas. Now Hillary's going to come in. So you had a lot of folks in the Democratic establishment trying to say, hey, Bernie-crats, it's all good. We're doing some populist stuff. We're all on the same team here. And now Hillary's going to come in and say, wait a second, this guy undermined my candidacy. He's not a real Democrat. He's not interested in helping Democrats when he's interested in taking over the party. And I'm going to call him out on that, even though she's like, I thank him for endorsing me. I think he didn't want Trump to win, but let's be real about what's going on here. As to the extent that Democrats are more unified than Republicans, that's good for Democrats in 2018. But there's certainly a chance that Democrats will be, if not equally divided, fairly divided, and that's going to hurt their chances to seize the opportunity.
I think so. I think that everything is looking good for Democrats except the chance, the Senate, what seats they're defending. So the map favors Republicans, but otherwise, I think everything, historical trends and things that we're seeing would all favor Democrats. So we'll keep an eye on that, but Trump is not doing Republicans any favor. With the Hillary book, I think it could be very interesting. It does seem like she is trying to be very introspective and figure out what happened, and maybe even has a little bit of understandably an obsession with trying to figure out the Trump phenomenon. I would say I don't know if they intentionally leaked out these book excerpts to gin up attention or if they just leaked, but not a good look for Hillary. It does look like she's trying to blame Bernie and Obama and others and not accept, even though she always says the campaign's my fault. It was my campaign. But then she goes on to say, but if Obama hadn't done this and if Bernie hadn't done that, then we might have won if James Comey hadn't done this. So it seems like a pattern of her sort of not accepting responsibility and trying to blame others. And maybe that's part and parcel of the problem, that she doesn't get that she has a problem, that she just simply wasn't likable, and that the buck stopped there. Well,
so you say it's not a good look for her. Now, her favorable numbers are already terrible. They've remained terrible post-election, if maybe not even gotten worse. Because she's already been hating on the right. The Bernie folks never liked her in the first place, so that comes together and you get a bad number. So I mean, bad look if she wanted to run in 2020, perhaps, and maybe she's even thinking about doing that. What do I know? But as far as selling books is concerned, I'm sure it's a very good look. Tons of attention are being drummed up. If she has a larger political goal of checking Bernie, I mean, maybe it's not going to work out this way, but I mean, basically, in a situation where most Democrats are afraid to check Bernie. because they want his votes. They're understandable. Without their votes, we're a divided party. We can't win. She's basically going to come out there and saying, "Hey, don't give him the keys without thinking twice here. He doesn't necessarily have your best interest at heart." If she sells a lot of books, and she goes on, she's got a big book tour schedule, speaking in big theaters, if there's a strong positive response in the room, if she shows there's a constituency that's willing to say, wait a second, we're not all Bernie-crats here, maybe one of these 2020 candidates is gonna try to seize that niche and make a case for him or herself. So I think it's just the question. So she's not necessarily going to she was a polarizing figure, and she's going to remain a polarizing figure after this book. But let's see if she gets the last laugh in protecting the Democratic establishment.
I like it. Okay, you persuaded me that it's not as crazy as what.
I mean, it could be a giant failure. It could be,
But there's a method to the madness.
I mean, it could be a dead cat bounce, and Bernie dances on her grave, and it's all Bernie from here on out, for all I know. But I could understand her saying, "Hey, no one else is saying this. It might as well be me. Let's see." I mean, at what risk to me? I've already lost the presidency twice. I'm not going to run again. Why not? Throw that grenade and see what happens.
I like it. Well, it's good to be back in the Attila the Hun chair.
And we'll see you next week after Hillary's actual publication, so maybe there'll be more to talk about at that point. And we'll see if the government stays open and we have a debt limit increase. There's some talk of a compromise there. There was talk this was going to be bloody September for Republicans. Maybe it's going to be bloody December instead.
Just in time for the holidays.
All right. You take care.
All right. Thanks, Bill. See you guys.
Bye.